mystery. This is mystery, isn't it? Why God calls us, why we feel that God calls us. Why do I even believe in a God? And why do I have a sense of God and maybe somebody else doesn't? It's all part of mystery. But certainly from the time I can remember, I had a life in God and believed in God and desired to be a saint, and I wanted to be a martyr. I no longer pray for that, but for many years I did, naive that I was. Although a friend of mine tells me, well, maybe he's asked you to be a martyr in a different way. But I wanted to give myself over to God, and I wanted to be a missionary. I always loved sociology and studying about other people and other things. And so it seemed that as a good Catholic girl, that doing that and consecrated my life in a way that's ritualized and recognized and blessed and sacramental in the real sense of something that gives us grace, that becoming a sister was the way to do that. And then by various things, very coincidences, meeting the missionary sisters of the Sacred Heart. Actually, I met them when I lived in Italy. I was a member of a lay community called Covenant House that worked with runaway youth primarily in New York City in Times Square, and was in Italy studying theology and met the sisters over there. And then just through various processes, I ended up choosing this congregation to join.
And when you first entered, how did Mother Cabrini's legacy, her life and charism, impact you when you first came?
Look, when I was in first grade, my grandmother bought a series of books on the saints, and my mother read to me when I went to bed at night, and she read to me the life of St. Elizabeth Ann Seton, and she read to me the life of Mother Frances Xavier Cabrini. And I remembered those things. And so I knew who these saints were, etc. But certainly when I was looking, I had a whole methodology in deciding what religious congregation I was going to enter. I mean, it's a long time. You make decisions, and you have all the pros and you have all the cons, and you have all your friends challenging you, saying, why in the world would you ever want to do this, etc. But in the end, this was not the congregation that I was most humanly attracted to. I just wasn't. But I was in the Mother Cabrini Shrine in New York City, and I had read several of Cabrini's books herself, and she always talked about the sisters in the congregation being her daughters. And I'm in that shrine, and I said, you know, Cabrini, if you want me to be one of your daughters, you're going to need to let me know that. And I had a sense of her clearly saying to me, I do want you. And that's the mystery. There are these moments of contact with mystery that don't happen all the time, but they're great gifts of grace and consolation when you do get them, and that the sacred function of memory helps us to hang on as we move into the future and times become more dry. If you've read the life of Mother Teresa, her life in prayer was dry for 40 or 50 years. She didn't have any affective connection in her prayer. But God gives us these moments of grace that we remember, that hold us on and say, oh yes, that's why I did that. But I had a clear sense that Mother Cabrini wanted me to be a missionary sister of the Sacred Heart.
She seems to have been right. So the next question is, how does her life, the charism, impact your life today, when you woke up this morning, if you will?
Look, I'm in a very particular role. I'm the General Superior of the Missionary Sisters of the Sacred Heart. I am seventh in line, in the direct line of Mother Cabrini. I have a huge privilege and responsibility because of that. I cannot be but attached and part of who Mother Cabrini is, and constantly have that as my reference point, and belief that I'm helped and given the grace to carry forth that mission. So there is no divorce. It's organic, and in the bones and in the blood and in my veins and the cells that flow through me, with the limited instrumentality that I am.
So you've had the opportunity, the challenge, to live in community for many years. What was that like?
You know, this word community is very interesting. Everybody lives in community. We all live in community. Huh? The human condition is we are communal people. So who do I live with? I live with a bunch of women that I didn't necessarily choose to live with, that I wasn't in love with. You know, unlike a family community, you choose your spouse who you live with for the most part, and you have some sort of common purpose, which is about your family and making sure you raise good and loving children, etc. My community is, we are all on the same journey together. These are women who have been chosen by God and by Mother Cabrini to be part of this journey together on behalf of our mission. So our community life is what supports us to be able to go out and do missionary work. It is the seedbed that allows that to happen, and the nurturing of where I am supported in my faith journey. Hopefully, I'm supportive of others in their faith journey, and we share a common grace and a common way of doing that, a common way of understanding the gospel and how we give expression to that.
What's the most profound, the most important, the most life-changing experience in your work as a sister?
You're right, it's stumping, because there is nothing that I would name, because it's what I said about Juniper, St. Francis of Assisi's companion. I would hope at this moment I'm doing exactly what it is that God would desire me to be doing. And so that's profound. Obviously, each place and each mission that we find ourselves with, we are continually impacted by the people whose lives touch us and whose lives we touch and who we share our journey with for whatever period of time it is. Although we're itinerant people, I don't have a permanent community. I don't have a permanent mission that I will always be part of. But at those particular moments, there's a richness of relationship and communion. Because if we go back to the word community and communion, it's the communion that you experience as we live out our daily lives. So that's what's continuously transforming and profoundly impactful and hopefully growth producing in holiness and in being the person that God would want me to be.
Reflecting back on your life as an MSC and as bearer of the love of Christ, what have you found most fulfilling in your work?
My life just is fulfilling. It just is. When you're content with your life, look at my life has ups and downs like everybody else's lives. My faithfulness to my commitment has its up and downs like everybody else's life does. But in the end, it's the choice I have made. I believe the choice has been given help, that I have help from God's grace to be able to live it. And it's, what more could you ask for? What more can you ask for to know that you're loved and that you do love? I have experienced myself as loved by God, as loved by other people. I hope other people have experienced themselves as having been loved by me. I hope God takes my feeble attempts at that as an act of my love for Him.
When you think about the future, when you think about what the period we're going into with the change. But even further than that, what do you want people to know about the sisters? How do you want them to view the sisters? How do you want them to think about the sisters?
Look, I would hope that every missionary sister that anybody comes in contact with, what they remember is that they were loved by that woman. People can do wonderful things. Huh? They can make great achievement, but in the end, people remember who was kind to them, remember who treated them like a real person, who looked them in the face, treated them with respect and dignity, and say, oh yeah, and she also helped to establish this school, or she also helped bring agriculture services here, and she also helped me with school. But what is most important is that she's remembered as having been loved by that missionary sister. And my little anecdotal story about that is when I was first entering the Missionary Sisters of the Sacred Heart, often called the Cabrini Sisters, my mother came to visit me in New York City, where she met many of the sisters, and many of those sisters that she met had attended our high schools and our schools. My mother, who was a product of Catholic schools, I'm a product of public schools, but who was a product of Catholic schools, said, oh my, I would have never entered the sisters of who were her sisters because they were so mean. She says, but those sisters must have been really kind that all these women who attended their schools wanted to enter it. And I think that encapsulates who I would want the missionary sisters to be and recognized as women who find us attractive because we're normal human beings doing the best we can and liking you and you liking us and on a journey together, supportive of each other, but being known for our kindness, our generosity, our hospitality, our willingness to sacrifice, our willingness to go where nobody else will go, on behalf of the other, and in the name of the heart of Christ.